Hence Olsen joins us. BYU Color Analyst, also talk show host for KSL Sports Zone, covering both Utah and BYU on 365 Sports. What was the main topic today with your show you did?
Oh, we've got a big story brewing up in Logan, Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Athletic directors being fired and coaches being fired, and a lot of speculation as to what's happening and who's going where. My son just committed to Utah State. He's going into his senior year. He committed as a big offensive lineman. And so I've got interest. Obviously, the Olsen name that's on the field up there, I've got a ton of interest in what's going on. So that's been a really big story. And then our BYU and Utah kind of camp breakdowns. BYU started camp today, boys. So we're in business.
They are picked, I think, at 5.5 wins right now. What would you put over or under on that?
Oh, I think that's a really good number.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good number. I am interested to see what happens with SMU and Wyoming. They're going to have to at least split that to get themselves over 5. If not, have to go 2-0 in that non-conference stretch. They better just thump Southern Illinois. Like, don't let that be a game. But, boys, at SMU, at Wyoming,
yeah,
I played at Wyoming. Wyoming was 7-0 last year. Remember, was it Texas Tech that they beat in double overtime last year?
Yeah.
They can put the hurt on people. So I'm currently going to go 5 wins for BYU, so that would put me on the under.
Well, Hans, let me back up a little bit. You mentioned your son committing to Utah State. Tommy Rock Olsen, as I saw in one of the headlines there. Just how cool is that? What's that experience like for you?
It's one of the craziest blessings that I've ever had in my life. And I don't know, you guys have boys? Either of you got boys? Or
I don't.
No, I know.
Well, Craig on the show is my son, so yes, I do.
Okay. So you understand that point of pride. Whatever footsteps they might be following in, it's pretty incredible. And, where my uncle, all of my uncles got to play in the NFL. I had 3 uncles that played in the NFL, and watching them on TV and watching Phil Olsen do Clover Club potato chip commercials and watching Orrin Olsen with the Kansas City Chiefs and then watching Merlin in the broadcast booth. And I was like, well, I'll give this a try. Now, I've been a second-rate bum compared to any of my uncles, which is fine. But watching your son want to jump into those shoes, it's a point of pride. And then having Merlin Olsen Field and having the legacy up in Logan, and as much as we love Logan and still have a ton of family up there, having him commit up there, it just meant everything to the Olsen family. It has been awesome. Hearing from Merlin's kids, obviously Merlin passed about 12 years ago, and hearing from Phil, and who played at Utah State, All-American. He was the 2nd overall draft pick behind Terry Bradshaw back in the 70s. And it's just been awesome, guys. It kicks up a whole flood of emotion. A lot of tears for me, actually. I'm an emotional baby anyways, but a lot of tears.
Are you more emotional than Kalani Sitake?
I'm more emotional, but I'm not a better dancer. I mean, that guy will dance on any sideline, and I've seen him do, that guy could do synchronized swimming. He does tandem dance. I've seen him do that ribbon dance that we see in the Olympics. He can do rhythmic gymnastics. He's flexible. Boys, he is a unique dancer, but I think I'm a little bit more emotional.
What do you think that the sneaky strength of the team will be?
Wide receivers. I think that's going to be your sneaky strength of the team. You got the big boys. You guys got a taste of Chase Roberts, and you know what he's about. I might be Chase Roberts' biggest fan in the state of Utah, just the way he plays. He is so physical. You had to walk on. You had that little scat walk-on stud, Parker Kingston, last year, and he's going to take a bigger role this year, and I hope he does. Darius Lassiter, who we just call him the circus clown, because that guy catches any type of circus catch you could ever throw at him. and I'm going to go wide receivers. You know, it's a crazy thing, guys. They moved one of their wide receivers, Keanu Hill, into tight end. I guess he was just an eater. He had an appetite, and he started eating himself out of the wide receiver room and ate himself right into the tight end room. And he's walking around big, and they're expecting him to be a fantastic tight end for them, kind of take over where Rex left off. But I think that your wide receiver group is going to surprise some people. You just need to get somebody that can get them the ball.
So for a little while now, Fred Warner has been, I think, the best player from BYU as far as at the pro level and representing all of that. And then here came Puka Nacua, and he has had an amazing, very short to this point, but an amazing bursting onto the scene of the NFL. When did you realize how good he could be, Hans, in terms of not just at the college level, but potentially do what we saw him doing last year with the Rams?
Okay, I'm glad you asked this, and I hope you got a couple of minutes on this answer, because there's some in-depth on this. But there was a moment a few seasons back, I believe it was Puka's final year with BYU, where Kalani's job was completely in question. They had lost some, I think, 3 or 4 games, and like one of them was like UMass and like Liberty, and like things were stacking up, and it was getting really, really ugly and questionable. And they were playing against Boise State. And any BYU fan that's listening to this right now, you know exactly where I'm going. I think anybody that's related to the program and knows anything about BYU football knows exactly where I'm going. Going into that game, it was like, is Kalani going to be around? Is this team going to be around? Like, what are they going to do? Because this is getting real messy. Boise State had BYU at like a 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, and they had the lead, and the clock was running down, and everything was on the line. And Puka Nacua gets pressed by this Boise State defender. But like, this Boise State defender essentially grabs him at the line, maybe the 15, 20-yard line, somewhere in there. And essentially BYU said, screw it, we're going for it all. It's either a touchdown or not. We're not even going for the first, the touchdown or not. It's over, and the entire staff, I think, is probably looking for new jobs. I'm not kidding. Like, it was that built up, guys. And Puka Nacua is on a press, and he runs through this press, and he is fighting this dude like he is Russell Crowe in the movie Gladiator with a trident. And this dude's chucking that net thing at him, and somebody, like, they're throwing every weapon you could think. And he's hand battling, and he gets to I believe it was a post corner. I think it was kind of maybe it was more of a deep out. And this dude is still grabbing on him. I don't know why they didn't throw the flag 15 times before the ball was even thrown. But ball gets thrown, and there's no way this ball is catchable. It is out of bounds. It is probably 3 yards out of bounds. Somehow Puka, while the defender's hanging on him, does a complete 360, spins all the way around, tips the ball up to himself, keeps one toe in as he catches this ball with his middle finger, pointer finger, and his thumb, and finds a way to haul this in, saves the coaching staff, saves the season, like, saves the moment. It is probably the greatest catch that I've seen at the college level. And right then I said, that dude right there, he could be anything you want. Like, that guy is full of onions, and I fell in love with him. It was one of the coolest things I'd ever witnessed, guys. It was really an incredible moment.
Yeah, and you're talking about saving a coaching staff, not to mention the moment you realized, and what a year he had last year in the NFL. So, Kalani, you're talking about job on the line. He seems to be entrenched at BYU, but there are expectations. There is a standard. We discussed this with him at Big 12 Media Days. What must he do, or what's the minimum requirement this year for BYU football?
It's 6 wins, guys. And I hate to paint that dramatic of a picture, but I'm a realist. And BYU just went all in on their basketball program, hired Kevin Young. Somebody leaked his contract numbers, which In the history of BYU coaches, fellas, I have never heard an actual number, ever. I played for Lavelle, didn't know. I did find out later what some of his contracts were. Bronco Mendenhall era, any assistant, you can't get numbers from BYU because of their private label. And somebody leaked out Kevin Young's numbers at $4.5 million a year. I can pretty much tell you the entire assistant pool doesn't make that with the football team. And I can't imagine Kalani's anywhere close to that. So they went all in, and you're seeing them. They're pulling in these five-star guys, and they've become a real player in the college basketball world. Well, what do you think that would do to you? You know, I put it in terms with my co-host while we were doing the show. That's like bringing back Mike and Mike in the morning and dropping them in our morning slot and paying them $27 million collectively, and having us follow that up and us looking around like, well, what's going on around here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's our expectations? What are we doing? And that's what the staff has got to be looking at. We have just seen the bar get raised, and there are some really good football coaching names out there that I'm sure BYU has probably talked to and probably making inroads with that will cost you $4 or $5 million and would be a real progressive, entertaining, crazy hire. And I've got to imagine that entire staff feels it. So 6 wins, I think, bowl game minimum. And I don't know if it's a firing or if they just let this current contract play out, but there is no extension. He's got to do something big this year to really push their hand to force them to do something.
Well, you hope that BYU with the Kalani, obviously Aranda at Baylor, among a couple of others, I'm not sure they can do the Neil Brown, West Virginia 9 wins, win a bowl game, but he was on the proverbial hot seat last year entering the season, and they raised the bar. All right, you also, with KSL Sports Zone, cover a lot of Utah. And Kyle Whittingham, loved his style and consistency and just the way they played the game. Your thoughts about Utah? Is it Utah or is it Kansas State? Or who do you feel like is the odds-on favorite to win the Big 12?
Well, this is going to be such an incredible science experiment to see how Pac-12 numbers translate to Big 12. And you talked about West Virginia, you know, BYU made that trip, and so I was up in that booth and got to call that game, and I watched West Virginia dismantle BYU. Just dismantle them. It was an impressive display of great coaching schematics, great game plan, good clock management, finding all the gaps and weaknesses, and I'm like, geez, man, this is really getting impressive. Iowa State did the same thing when they came to BYU right here in LaVell Edwards Stadium back on November 11th and put on a clinic. I'm like, oh, yikes. But Utah's numbers, guys, you know, 4th in the country last year in stopping the run. And it's not the Pac-12 teams really try to run. And, you know, they're going to get a taste of that Big 12 run game. And, guys, you know that the Big 12's got five of the top 15 running backs in the country. Like, this is a great run conference. And can the top 4 rushing defense hold up against the top 5 running backs in the country? We'll see. How much do those Pac-12 numbers translate when the Pac-12 was so different? It was so awkward and unorthodox and throwing the ball around, and you had 3 quarterbacks drafted in the top 15 picks with Caleb Williams and Bo Nix and Penix. And so I'm just trying to get a feel for what I see them do in the Pac-12 and what it does in the Big 12. But if it does translate, they've got the dogs to go win it. And so I do favor them over Kansas even. I favor them over Kansas State, Oklahoma State. I favor them over the top teams in the Big 12. I just know how physical they can be. And I think Big 12 fans are going to love the brand and respect it. They're just probably going to really hate the outcomes that they're going to see at the end of this.
Hans, you're great, man. We appreciate Hans is Olsen with us, BYU, Utah, covers KSL Sports Zone. It's always great to have you on. Love your passion, emotion, and everything else in between. Have a great, great week, okay?
This sport is my life, and I absolutely love what you guys do and can't wait to be back on with you.
We'll get you, no question. Hans Olsen with us on 365 Sports, former Brigham Young. First time I've said that in a long time, like almost a year. BYU lineman and now a part of the show a lot, and we appreciate his time. All right, we're not